إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا ورسولنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا أما بعد. Respected ulama, huffaz, elders, brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praise and thanks is due to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nourish, cherish and sustain of all the world. Choicest blessings and salutations upon his beloved Nabi Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent with his complete and perfect deen of Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts, accept our ibadat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us inshaAllah, especially on this day of Jumu'ah, in this hour of Jumu'ah. Alhamdulillah, many of our Hujjaj have made their way to the holy lands of Makkah al-Mukarramah and Madinah al-Munawwarah. And the journey that they have chosen to undertake is a journey which not only forms part of an individual's rehabilitation or reform or indication of their direction, but it is a journey that also serves as an eye-opener and a message to the entire ummah of our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. While today's talk will not be focused specifically on Hajj, because I'm sure the Imam of the Masjid has been speaking and will be speaking at length about it in the weeks to come, and perhaps he has touched on it already. I want to highlight one aspect of Hajj, and that relates to the sa'i bayn al-Safa wal-Marwa, the running or the moving between the Mount Safa and Marwa by Sayyidatuna Hajar alayha salam. Now we know that the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam had undertaken a very noble and difficult task by choosing to listen to her husband when he said to her, remain behind. Because under normal circumstances, in any time, whether it was in the post-2000, before 2000, post-1900, before 1900s, right up to the time of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, it is not natural to be able to say to oneself that I know I'm in a barren land. A mother, a woman with a child will remain behind without any vegetation as far as the eye could see. But I'm going to remain behind under the instruction of my husband, whom I believe was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do this. Allahu Akbar. She remains behind, and we know the events that unfold thereafter. A child becomes hungry, and I'm just going to go by it quickly. A child becomes hungry. She seeks some kind of relief to see as far as the eye could see where and how could she sustain and give some kind of relief to her child. She goes to Mount Safa and Mount Marwa. Safa and Marwa. She goes between the two a few times to be able to see if perhaps she hasn't missed anything. Surely, if it was us, we would have gone once, twice, and realized I haven't seen. But you can understand the desperation of the lady, that she's not only gone once, twice, 3, 4, but more than that. She's gone so many times, 7 times she's gone between the mountains, just to be able to see what is there that she could possibly use to grant relief to her child. This feeling and this emotion that a mother shares with a child, while we as fathers who are sitting here downstairs, maybe the mothers are more familiar with it upstairs, can imagine what it's like, because if we have that kind of feeling for our children. They always say the mother has so much more feeling for the child. You can imagine the kind of emotion that Sayyidina Hajar was going through. The child being deprived. The mother not even worrying about herself, going between Safa and Marwa. And I speak about it or remind myself of the story and about this, the hope, the sadness, the emotion, the trust in Allah, and all the other aspects of the story that come to light. I remind myself of it on the back of Women's Day that was celebrated yesterday. So when we look at the issue of Women's Day, I started by reminding myself and yourself that the Hujjaj will go to Mecca, and they will, when they do the sa'i between Safa and Marwa, they will not be emulating the actions of a male. They are emulating the actions of a female that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has elevated to a very high daraja in Islam, in history. And whether you are male or female, you will emulate Sayyidina Hajar, the wife of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, when you do the sa'i. And this should give us, on the back, it should give us some kind of thought, some kind of idea of the kind of importance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed on the role of females within society, and more specifically within Islam. There was a time in history where people of different faiths and different ideologies actually considered women in a very different light to a human light. There were times in history where religions and the Christian faith, it was mentioned in some of my research that even in some of the Christian faiths back in the day, there was a debate that was raised in a church whether a lady was considered to have a body and a soul, or whether she was just a body without a soul. This is the extent of how women had been considered. As a result of this, you find that even today the Jews and Christians and Muslims and other religions and other ways of life look back at the oppression of women, what they have had to undergo over centuries gone by, and they've come to, over time, develop certain more rights, certain more benefits that would accrue to women, irrespective of where they are, what religion or what race they are in the world. So much so that because of this there has been an overcompensation. And hear me out when I say this. By no means am I saying that women should not be treated well, because if someone understands me incorrectly, they may just take the wrong message away from the Jumu'ah. What I'm saying is that there has been an overcompensation of the role of women in society. And this overcompensation has been largely advocated by groups of feminists, not from the Islamic faith, but groups of feminists from various other walks of life. Feminism has become something that not only sought to oppose the natural, normal, patriarchal society in a non-Muslim culture, but more specifically with us moving towards the end of times, the idea of feminism, the ideology of feminism that is so deeply entrenched in focusing on how they can create equal rights between males and females. They have taken over the agendas in the world and have completely discarded many religious verdicts, many laws of the Quran, many laws of the Injil, many laws of the Torah, in order to seek the equality that they so badly need. I highlight this point because as Muslims, it is shameful that we have the abuse of women in our society. And it is not. We are not exempt from that kind of abuse in our homes. We are not exempt from that kind of abuse in our workplaces. We are not exempt from that kind of abuse in our schools, in our other institutions within society. It is a disgrace that as Muslims, we have this disease amongst us. In addition to this, consider, where has all of this abuse, where has this idea of being able to abuse children, to be able to abuse women, or women to abuse men, the idea of abuse, where does it stem from? How does it come about in our society? And how can we rid our society from this kind of evil? I've already mentioned that Islam, just as an introduction, that Islam places a great emphasis on women. Even at a time where other religions of the world were giving no rights to women. A time when no other religion was giving women the right to inherit, Islam had accorded the Muslims a right to inherit. Contrary to popular belief, a woman has the right to refuse a proposal, while in many other cultures and many other religions, women do not have the right to refuse a proposal that comes her way. So many things Islam had accorded the rights of women. When the world was still in darkness, Islam had already been promoting the rights of women from long before that kind of time. This leads us to accept and agree on one point, that Islam did not require a woman's day. Islam did not require alternate ideologies or alternative religions to make a noise about the importance of women before Islam themselves decided to give women their great regard. Islam gave regard and consideration to the abuse of women long before the rest of the world identified that women needed to be saved from the plight and from the strength of the abusers around her. Number one. Number two, very often when we consider the rights of women, do we consider the abuser of those rights to be men? Very often this is the case. But so often we will find that the abusers of women's rights are not just men, but are other women who are abusing the rights of their fellow women. And this is another concept and idea that we need to consider. So I have had many cases perhaps that have come to me where there have been marital disputes. And let me tell you, in the job of anybody who works in social work, or anybody that has the opportunity or has been in the opportunity of mediating in a marital dispute where there is domestic violence, they will tell you that that is probably the most unrewarding, unsatisfying. It is the worst cases to deal with when you have to deal with domestic violence. It is strange to know that there was once a man sitting in front of the Imam saying, قَبِلْتُ نِكَاحَهَا لِنَفْسِ بِذَلِكَ, that I have accepted her hand in marriage based on what we have spoken here. When prior to that the Imam said, أُزَوِّجُكُمْ عَلَى مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بِإِمْسَاكٍ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَسْرِيحٍ بِإِحْسَانٍ, that I can marry you with the commandment of Allah, that you live with each other in kindness, or if you part, that you part in a good manner. Despite this, the Imam says, قَبِلْتُ نِكَاحَهَا لِنَفْسِي بِذَلِكَ, based on the fact that there are witnesses, based on the fact that there is a dowry, based on the fact that there is a wakil, based on the fact that there is someone in front that is saying to you that you must live together in kindness. Within 5 years, it is difficult. Within 10 years, it is difficult to imagine how all of that has gone out of the window when you find cases of domestic violence. The sad part is that it is not about other religions or other ideologies. The sad part is that it happens many times in our community. Because I'm not speaking at the church, and because I'm not speaking at the synagogue, therefore I am not faced with as many Christian and Jewish cases perhaps as might be out there. I'm seeing more Muslim cases about it. But still, the fact that it is there, where a man and a lady are running around the house with knives chasing each other, you think to yourself, are we living in a normal world, or is this a movie that I'm living in? When people are picking up other items to start throwing at their partner, you ask yourself, what is going on in this world? How can it be that a woman and a man can abuse each other so badly? And obviously, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّمُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ, the man has been given a lot of power over a lady in many different aspects, but also in the physical aspect. If a man lifts his hand for a lady, even in a joking way, it becomes very, very painful, very difficult for them to bear. Imagine a man out of anger. The Prophet ﷺ was speaking with the Sahaba. There was a time in Medina. When the Muhajirin came from Mecca to Medina, they found that the women in Medina were a lot more vociferous. They were a lot more, they spoke back a lot. They were more opinionated in Medina as opposed to Mecca. In Mecca, the Muhajirin lived with their wives. If they said up, jump up, the wife asked how high. When they went to Medina, it was a different story, and they were faced with this challenge, with this problem. So it is not the time that, these disputes happened from the beginning of time. So they came to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala and noticed this, and many of the people came to complain to Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. Look, we're finding this a big problem. We don't know women to be like this. We know women to sit on their place and stay there. Right? Here we have women in Medina who are now speaking back. In fact, there was one narration where a man comes to complain to Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, and as he's walking to the door of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, and he can hear there's some sounds and noise coming from inside the house of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab. And then he turns around and he thinks, okay, this guy's wife is shouting at him also, I need to rather just find my own way. He's got bigger problems than I am. So this man, the Sahaba, turns around and he walks away, and from the window or something, Sayyidina Umar sees this Sahaba turning away, and he opens the door and he says, hey, where are you going? What happened? It looked like you were coming here. Where are you going to? He says, no, I was coming to you to complain, but I see you've got the same problem I have. So the thing is, so Sayyidina, what do you mean, what problem? And he said, no, I see your wife is also going at you, So he says, yeah, you know what, my wife says to me certain things sometimes. But when she says to me certain things at some moments, I think of what a good mother she is. I think of what a good wife she is. And sometimes I go easy, I forgive her I let her go for a tangent sometimes, and this is the way I needed to deal with it. Because this person was coming to complain about the women of Medina, how much they oppose their husbands. So, to just in a joking manner, it was mentioned once that in the time of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, just to say to a lady, hey, don't do this. In a joking, naughty. When a baby wants to take something from the table and you know that it's bad for the baby, it doesn't mean you don't love the baby, but you tap the baby's hand and you say, don't touch there, you're going to burn. Or don't go there, you're going to get hurt. Or don't do this. So that gentle manner was being conveyed by the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The next day they found there were so many cases of abuse that came to, in one narration it is said 70 cases of abuse came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, saying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said you can beat your wife. These issues of domestic violence came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed his disregard for it by not only mentioning that it was not allowed to do it like that, but to say how much he hated the idea of seeing a man who would get so enraged with his wife that his neck would become swollen and the vein in his neck would become, and his face would become visible. The Prophet ﷺ disliked it and completely stopped the Sahaba from behaving in a manner where they became this angry with their spouses. So some people go to the Quran and they say that the Quran says الرجال قوامون على النساء, that the man has been placed in authority or has been given more power than بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم, because of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to men over women in terms of physical strength, in terms of certain abilities, and what they spend of their wealth. Because sometimes a man controls a relationship based on the fact that he is the breadwinner in the house. And no one can say oof or af because he is putting the bread on the table. So you dare not question his ability. You dare not question his decision. Even if you disagree or dislike with his decision, he brings the money to the house, so you better listen to him. So this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he has given men certain powers. First, then the Quran goes further. I'm not going to go through the whole ayah, but in the latter part of the ayah, it speaks about if a lady is disobedient to her husband, and then he puts her in isolation in a particular place to show her that he's isolating himself from her, that he wishes not to go near her, and there are certain things, and then the Quran says, وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, and then beat them lightly. Now, it says beat them, but many interpretations have come what is regarding beating. And I'm saying this because you think, we all know this. Somebody said beat them with a feather. Some people said beat them with 3 fingers. The fact is, your non-Muslim counterparts got access to Google. And the people on Google are saying Islam permits beating women. You stand there, you're thinking, I never heard of this ayah before in the Quran. What are they talking about? No, the Quran doesn't. The Quran says, وَضْرِبُهُنَّ, and beat them lightly. So don't run away from the idea. Don't be apologetic about what your religion says. But the religion doesn't say them to uphold. The issue of ضَرَبَ يَضْرِبُ, to beat, doesn't only refer to lifting your hand. You can give an example. And they say, you've hit an example or you've given an example. That is also the word ضَرَبَ يَضْرِبُ. It is also used to give forth an example, to give something forth. So when the Quran says this, let's not be fooled and say that this doesn't exist in the Quran. We are practical people. In a theoretical idea, in a theoretical utopia of a Muslim world, we could say, Islam says, take a feather. I asked the other day, because the discussion was on the radio, I have yet to see a case where a man and a lady come to me for a marital dispute and that there is domestic violence, and the man was so present in his mind that he went outside, found a bird or a chicken, took a feather and came back to beat his wife. I've never come across a case like that. So for me to tell someone to beat you with a feather, it is unrealistic. The real issue here is not the fact that that the Quran says beating or not beating. Not the fact that on the Hajjatul Wida, that the Prophet ﷺ spoke about how you should, and he clarified the word by tapping them lightly. He clarified this. But that's not the point. The point is, why are you getting angry in such a manner that you cannot distinguish between what is abuse and what is not abuse? That is the bigger question. For a lady and for a man. And if you are going to allow the non-Muslim, when I say non-Muslim, there's other systems, other ideologies and other ways of life to determine what your criteria is for determining what is abuse and not abuse, wallahi, you will go astray. Because the issue of equality between men and women is not the matter. There is no equality between men and women in Islam. There is no equality. Let me give you an example. Inheritance. The man inherits double of the female. Is that equal? It's not. Islam does not seek equality. Islam seeks justice. And justice and equality are different things. A knife and a fork may be equally important to cut a piece of meat. But a knife and a fork are not equal in their characteristics by themselves. So you can achieve the job of eating your meat by using a knife and a fork, but they need to complement each other in achieving a particular role. But their qualities are not equal. A fork has different kind of characteristics. A knife has different kind of characteristics. And if we allow the other ideologies to come and determine what equality between a male and a female is, I promise you they will be finding a way for a man to fall pregnant very soon. That is the reality, because there is no equality. A man cannot fall pregnant. A man cannot fall pregnant. How are we saying that things are equal? A lady experiences certain emotions and certain moods at a particular time of the month. A man doesn't go through those kinds of things. How is it equal? But the minute we get lost in the discussion between feminism and these other ideologies out there, we lose the point of what our criterion should be. We make our criterion all these academic arguments, all these social factors that we have limited and heard of in our life. But we don't consider the Quran as our criterion. Should it not be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determines what is correct and incorrect in our lives? Should it not be that the Quran, who came long before all these ideology systems came into being, Islam came way before it to give women their rights, the man, and Allah, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in his final sermon, and to the women are their rights, just as you have your rights, the ladies also have their rights. So give them their rights as long as they remain chaste and good to you and obedient to you. Give them their rights, and the right of clothing and the right of food is your duty to see to it that your wives have those kinds of things. It is unfortunate that we don't know our role in society. It's unfortunate that we don't understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for us. That we can have time to go out and try to re-establish and reinvent the wheel and reinvent the arguments in our mind of what is domestic, what is violence against women, what is violence against children, what is violence against men. Why are we that angry in the first place? Let's come back to that point. How did you become so angry that you lost complete control of everything? And because in a practical world, the lady no lady came to complain to the MJC or the Imam to say that my husband tapped me with 3 fingers on the hand. No lady came to complain about that. When the lady comes to complain, the lady has to put makeup on her face because the eyes are blue. When a lady comes to complain, she complains because there is a mark in her face, her teeth is out, her nose is bleeding, she has been admitted to hospital. The ladies are complaining about that. I'm asking you, how did you lose your iman so much that you could have done that to another human being? A lady that you sat with in front of the masjid saying, قَبِلْتُ نِكَاحَهَا لِنَفْسِي بِذَلِكَ, that I have accepted her hand in marriage. How did you reach the level to beat that lady to a pulp like that? Again, the rectification of this problem in our society, in that sick problem, is not something that we can theoretically say that this, because in theory this works, therefore in the reality it's going to work like that. Try and tell someone who is angry that you must hit this guy with 3 fingers. He will hit you with 5 fingers. Because you can't even stop him from doing that. My question is, where are we going inside of ourselves? What are we thinking that allows ourselves to lose our temper like that against people who we claim to love? And go back to the example of Sayyidina Hajar and Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. What Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam did was not just leave his wife there without any idea. She had enough faith. So someone will say, and I'm going to give this example. If it was another lady in that situation and another man, I think after 7 days going Safa to Marwa, nothing came. She would have gone to the MJC's office and she said, look, my husband didn't nafaqah me for 7 days. He left me and my child in the desert, hungry. The MJC would say, right, that's a valid case. Here's a fasakh for you. Right, for a fasakh for you, you can end this marriage and annul the marriage. But you know why that didn't happen? Not only because the MJC was not there at that time, but more importantly, it didn't happen because the lady had trust that her husband had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the top of his mind. Even if you left, and it happens in many homes, where for days on end, the wife and the children and the husband go hungry. For days on end. And if the lady understands that my husband is not someone that will take the money and go and drink it out. She's not taking the money and going to gamble it out. He's not taking the money and spending on everything else and neglecting his duty at home. If the lady knows that the husband is someone that is fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and she is in line and in tune with his principles, that lady will never ever complain about that fact. Yes, your wives may give you difficulty at times, you know. I read this one meme. This one meme was where this boy was standing with his grandfather at the edge of a lake. Maybe you've seen it before. And he says to his grandfather says to him, listen my boy, I need to teach you about life. And I need to teach you about the philosophy of life. And he says, okay, granddad, go on. He says, well, Socrates said that I am the wisest man, Socrates said that the oracle told me that I am the wisest man alive because I know one thing. I am the wisest man alive because I know one thing. And that one thing that I know is that I know nothing. That's why I'm the wisest man alive, because I know one thing, and that one thing I know is that I know nothing. So the boy sits by his grandfather and he thinks for a while and he says, but now how does he know that? So the grandfather says, well, his wife told him. The point is, sometimes our wives will give us a difficult time. Sometimes women are built in that nature where we don't see eye to eye. We can't understand things in a particular way. Sometimes it will be our children that come to us, that will allow us, that will get to us, and we don't see things from their point of view. But whenever we become angry, whenever we become upset, how do we deal with that anger? How do we deal with that upsetness? Are we aware that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us? And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has entrusted these people with us? If we become aware of those kinds of things, then I don't think we will need the Western world to tell us you need a Women's Day to ensure that the rights of women are maintained. It would be a great day to know that the women, that all the cases that are reported at a police station are not on behalf of Muslim women. It would be a great day to know that we can, as a society and a community, reach a point where the Imam has to deal with a marital case where there has been no violence being perpetrated in that kind of dispute. It is sad to see. And you never know, you always feel sorry for the weaker person in cases like these, who appears to be weaker. But sometimes you don't know. The man will tell you he's gone through some other kind of experiences. But my dua is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding. There are many ayat in the Quran and many hadith where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned, khairukum khairun li ahli. The best of you, he is best to his wives. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also spoke about the rights of women in Hajjatul Wida. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam then also spoke about the rights of men. And these things are important, but if we are not going to familiarize ourselves with the rights that Allah has accorded men and women in society, in different capacities, if we are not familiar with it, and we start latching on to what the other world is giving us, the other ideologies and religions are giving us, wallahi, we will lose our way, we will lose what it is like to have a proper Islamic society. My advice is, if we want to do some kind of justice to our family, let us read up on what is the role of the husband, what is the role of the wife, and let's ask how we can fix things and make things better instead of resorting to violence and to these domestic abuse cases. May Allah grant us the understanding, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.